Okay, our last meeting we made the connection, and was succeed in a massive way. So, today we gonna make the insertion part. Create a PHP file inside the API_files folder and name it insert.php, and also create a JS file inside the JS folder and name it manage.js, and go to index.php file and connect to JavaScript file. I will check if the file is connected to the index file. Our JavaScript is not connected to the index file, means is not working. Here is where the error occurred. Our manage.js is inside another folder and it's JS folder. We must say js/manage.js, and it will work. So good, we going forward. When this button is clicked, we want to deal with, or in other words, the work that will happen will depend on clicking this button. By clicking this button we will handle all CRUD operations, and taking the data into database. So we will call this button inside our JS file, using the form submission, and our form has an ID #data_taker. Submit is a keyword built in with HTML and JavaScript, and our button has a type of submit. When we submit the form, it directly calls the button, cause the button has submitted the data. And also there is more built-in keywords like reset and so on. So we have 5 inputs, and we want to get their values. Here we will create 5 variables and then initializing them. Okay, I'm creating quickly. Now I will check if we get these values, using alert, also is a built-in function. Refresh the page, fill all the inputs. All these names coming up for me when I click the input, is called an autofill, is an attribute built in HTML. When we submit the button, our alert is showed up and it holds different values. But there is undefined value, means one input didn't work well. I will check it and I will correct, just watch. Another issue we want to solve is when we click the button, the page will make a refresh, and all data inside the inputs will be lost. The reason why we using Ajax and API is to prevent this stupid refresh and sending data smoothly and quickly. When we calling the button, go to the function and give a parameter called e. E is a shortcut of end event, is a built-in function, to prevent the refresh. Write e. And call this function prevent default. This function will stop the automatic refreshes. Is there any refresh occurred? No, our input still holds the data, and we will clear all these inputs manually, and boom, it's working, going forward. Right. Okay, we have all the values. The next thing is, we want to send this data into this insert API file. Before we send this data, we want to connect or bring us together, just like when a person is preparing for a trip. And we will be using object method. We prepared our data, and we named it data_sender. The next thing is to send this data into the API using Ajax method. To create or write Ajax method, begin with $, and then dot, and then write Ajax, then open and close parenthesis, inside the parenthesis open and close curly bracket. Also Ajax like an object in JavaScript, it contains variables and values. And there are unchangeable. Write them as I write. The first variable is a method. Are we using get method, or we using post method? When we was creating our connection, I told you to add one method and initialize it post. In this case we using post method, and post method is used to send data to a server to create or update a resource. Next is URL. URL is a string containing the URL to which the request is sent. We sending the data from here to the API file, so we will tell the URL to go to that location. There is two ways to access files. In this case this JavaScript file is inside a JS folder, and we want to access insert.php file inside the API_files folder. First we come out of this folder writing, .. Now I can access the folder I want, so call the folder API_files and then /. Now we are inside the APIs folder, and we will call our insert.php file. People generally enjoy this style, but if you don't like this style, don't worry, I will tell you another way and it's so easy to do. Go to your browser, open a new tab, and access your project folder using localhost. As you see, my browser automatically loads or runs the index.php file. That means I cannot access the API_files folder and the sub-files. But I will access it manually by going to the address bar and adding the URL. /API_folder. Then copy the URL in the address bar, also removing http://localhost. I think this way is the best. I use this way mostly, so place the URL you copied in the URL variable. This is the two ways, choose your own. So next is data type variable, means which kind of data we want to send. In our case we sending an JSON data. Next is data, the data we sending into the API, so we already declared these data as an object and we named as data_sender, call that variable in here. Next is sync, is a short of an asynchronize, initialize it true. And then we say success. Or give it any name you want, it's all up to you. In this case I will name respond. Or I think it will be better if we use success name, this will handle the response came from the API, write a function with their parenthesis and close them, and we will come back to it later. Here we sended the data into API file, the API file will process this data and return response, and then we will handle the response inside the success function. Now let's go to our API file, and configure this data sended, open insert.php file, and first of all, write PHP open and close tags. Every API files needs header function. What does header do? Header tells the API file what kind of data it will handle, in our case is JSON data, and it's unchangeable, write as I write. The next thing is we need a connection to a database, cause we inserting a data into a database, without a connection nothing will work. We already created our connection, we need to connect our insert.php API file with config_connection.php API file. There is a built-in function in PHP called require_once, it is used to call a file inside another file, so write require_once and call your connection API file. So we connected our file to database, and also in the connection file we created a variable and we stored our connection to it. In the insert file we can call that variable with his name. Now we need to execute our insertion query, create a variable and name query execute name initialize it empty strings. Then go to your browser and open a new tab, and write localhost/phpMyAdmin. Go to your database, and then your table, and then look the top menu in the top bar and choose SQL menu. As you see SQL have more different function, choose insert function, and copy all that text appears. And place it inside the strings. We will make some changes to it. First delete ID column, cause our ID is an auto increment, and also delete all these text inside the values function, we will use our own. I think you know this, when we want to get the value of HTML input element in PHP, we use $_post and the input name, Also these data sended from an Ajax, we will similarly handle like $_post and the variable name, cause this data coming from an object, nothing is a different. So there is a big issue when writing $_post, cause every variable has its post, and it is so difficult. To handle this issue there is a built-in function in PHP called extract. So write extract and pass $_post as a parameter. To understand it clearly what this function does. You know we send it a data as an object, and this object has a variable and a value. Now let's take the first variable. Create a variable. $firstname equals $_post firstname. You see how it's difficult to write this statement every time. That is why we using this awesome function. So this function will create variables from the variables we send it inside the object. This are object variables, will be converted into PHP variables by extract function, also they holding the data has been initialized. It's not easy to write this way every time, and it's so lost of time. So this function will do that for us, and we just call the variable names and use it. I have prepared the query. The next thing is we want to execute this query, and store it in a container, or a variable. First create variable, and name it result, and then go to config_connection.php API file or your connection PHP API file, and then copy the connection variable, and place it here. Cause I already included it in my API file using require once function. And it's available or we can use it. Then hyphen sign. And greater than sign. And then query. Query is built-in function used to execute a queries. We will pass the query as a parameter. Now in this case we passing the query_exec variable. This query will be executed by the query function, and don't forget its built-in function, and stored in result variable. It needs a connection, and we provided. We called the query function to execute our query, and we passed as a parameter, and stored in a variable. Now we will check if the query is executed or not executed using if and else statements. Before we check the result we need an array variable, name it print_result, and initialize it an empty array. In here, call the print variable, and initialize it an array associative. And who knows PHP, knows about an array associative, and an array associative is an array that you can create a variable and a value. The first variable is status. Status is the situation of the query, or if the result is returned true, is it true or false. In this case the status is true, the query is executed. As I told, the status is the variable, and the true is the value. And then message that we want the user to see, and initialize it data was inserted, or use any message you like. Otherwise, if the result is returned false, or the query is not executed, copy this message and place it in the else part, and then change the status into false, and the message into data has failed. Now we have executed the result, and printed the result inside our print variable, but our data is a PHP data or an API data. We need to convert this data into JSON format, and then we will send the converted data into the Ajax side, cause Ajax can deal with only JSON format. There is a built-in function in PHP, that converts a PHP data into JSON format called JSON_encode and pass the print variable as a parameter. Here will be sended status and message. The status will hold true, if the result is returned true, or will hold false if the result is returned false. We will go to the JavaScript file and we will get these values. Let's go to our manage.js file. This is where I told you to come back. It was meant to deal with the responses from our API files. In this case we sended two variables, status and message. To get these values, pass a parameter e to the function. It's an event, built in JavaScript. Also we need other variables that stores the values. Create first variable for status, and don't forget the names. It can be the same. I will name it status get, and the initialize with e dot and copy status variable, and place it there, and the message will be the same. We say if the status get equals true, alert the message, and if the status get equals false, alert the message. Now let's give a try. Go to the browser, and go to the form page, and refresh the page, and fill all the inputs, and then submit. We will see the result. Nothing is worked. Now we want to check if our API file has reached the data. Maybe the URL is incorrect. To know this, in your browser right-click and choose Inspect Element, go to the Network menu, and choose the XHR option, and now press Ctrl and F5, to refresh the page in a power way, and then fill the inputs and submit. When we submitted, as you see a file with red color is showed up, and the red colors always tells there is a big error. Click the file to open, and read the message. In this case, the URL tells the file you want to access is not found. Maybe our URL is incorrect. We will see it. Before that, browse your file inside the browser. In my case you see the status is true, and our message holds the data has inserted. There is no error in our PHP file. And also tells there is an undefined variables, means the data has not reached in our API. Our files are not connected to each other. Now we will go to correct our URL. Go to the URL variable, and add / in the beginning. Again refresh the page and give it a try. Now our file is not read anymore. Click the file to open, and read the message. As you see that little circle with a green color, tells the URL is inactive and working well. If you go down, you will see all the values we sended. First name, Mansour, last name, gender. There is grammarly error in the female word. I will correct it. Also if you open the preview tab, you will see the result we printed, the status and the message. If you go to database, browse the table, accept the confirmation by clicking OK, there is a two data inserted. The first one is when our URL was incorrect, I browsed the API file and query was executed, not me the browser, that's why columns are empty. But the second, we are inserted the data from the form. Here am correcting the female word. Also I want to add a validation in the gender selection, cause the first option I used as a title, so I want the user to select the other option, but not the title. All option has holding a values like, male, female, custom, but the title holds, 0, if the user choose the title, the 0 value will be saved in the database. Open the file, and see the gender value sended. This is the previous file, open the other one and that is the gender value. And also go to the database and see the 0 was saved there, so we don't want that, we will the user to choose the right gender. Happy watching. Yeah, it worked well, but the question is, what about the other inputs? If I submit the button, there is an alert says, please fill out this field. The reason is, all our input has an attribute called required. Required means you cannot leave it as an empty, it's like a validation. Also the button has a submit keyword, this submit will not accept to take an empty data, so required is a powerful attribute. That means we don't need to write an extra validation, and we don't want to lose our time with it. And also all these attributes are built in the HTML, like required, ID, submit, autofill attributes, and more, so search it in Google, and learn it. So we create the insertion, and I hope I will see you in the next section. Thanks for watching, bye bye.